Ladies and gentlemen, today's guest is Annalie Howling. She is a highly sought after performance coach with over 20 years experience working with leaders in business, elite sport and members of the armed forces, including UK Special Forces. She specialises in transitional support, and through her unique approach, she's able to ensure that her clients overcome any self-imposed limitation, enabling them to move forward with confidence and experience a more fulfilling life. This is going to be an incredible conversation. Get yourself comfortable and strap yourselves in. All right. Annalie, welcome to the Excitable Soul podcast. Just wonderful to have you with us. I'm really excited for the stories that you're going to be able to share for those that are listening. And really just want to kind of dive in at the deep end, start at the beginning of the journey, connect a few dots really. What are some of the most significant moments or critical people that have shaped who you are in the world today?
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I think it's a really interesting question, and I appreciate you asking me that. I think the critical moments, and I wonder if this would be helpful for your audience, because we hear all these stories about, oh, I lost everything and then I started it again, or
Yeah,
this thing happened. And, I think honestly, the critical moments have been times that I felt really lost.
yeah,
And I haven't had an answer. There hasn't been like a feather that dropped from the sky with something written on the back of it going, unlock this thing, and that's your destiny. But it's been the moments that I think I've allowed myself, or maybe have been forced into a place where I was just overwhelmed, stuck, burnt out, call it what you will. I think we've all got different personal experiences of that. And then just stopping and going, okay, what am I going to do? Like, what am
yeah,
I able to do? And some of that might be reaching out to people, like you say, people that have had big influence, or in those moments maybe can remind you of who you are. I'm thinking particularly about a good friend of mine, Nikki, who's a coach, and she started coaching long before me and before it was kind of cool. It was all when it was very woo woo and everyone thought it was very strange and weird. Like Wendy Rhodes has done a lot for me from Billions. Like I don't need to explain myself anymore. It's great. You know, everyone thinks it's really she and fabulous, and there's usually a follow-up question on that, but like otherwise they get it. So it's great. But when Nikki first started coaching, it was really early in this sort of process and protocol, and she'd been to the States doing it, which, as you know, is always a couple of years ahead, generally speaking, in the personal development world. Like
yeah,
more likely to perhaps bring some of these things out and it comes across to us in Europe a little bit later. And Nikki's someone that's been very influential on me. So my first ever experience of coaching was when I was at one of these junctions and just in a very, very successful, very well paid, highly revered job with an incredible network that I built from nothing.
yeah,
And so unhappy and so numb and so ill, frankly. And she was like, let me do a session for you. And, let's just see. And I was like, well, yeah, of course. I trust you and I'll try anything. And she did a guided visualization for me. And Nikki specializes in coaching women. Her
yeah,
blog is The Electric Woman. If anyone wants to look up, it's amazing. And you get to meet your most electric self, sort of you
yeah,
at 10. And you've done lots of coaching work. And the meditations are amazing. And it was so profound and it was so transformative. And I think in that moment when you really are just so numb, because I was so disconnected from my true authentic self and my personality and my soul. My
yeah.
soul was, I think my soul was excitable, but it was under all these layers of just numbness from
Just,
doing things.
just desperate to try and get out from somewhere.
Right, exactly. So, and when you're going through these like visualizations, you obviously go into your subconscious, but it was so profound and it was so vivid. And actually, a lot of things, I mean, this was like coming up for 14 years ago, and there were things that happened in that have absolutely manifested and become true that I could never have known, like having
Yeah,
one daughter, for example. I mean, the
yeah,
odds are okay, but I didn't know, you can't know that.
yeah,
Where I might live, all of these sorts of things. And yeah, though that was something that gave me hope. And I think those are the pivotal moments when I've been quite lost and maybe felt like I didn't have my North Star or a compass or something. And some people just kind of step in to just
yeah,
help you back to yourself. And Nikki, again, when I was started going through my divorce, am I allowed to swear or not?
yeah.
Can I swear on here?
Yeah, of course you can. Go
Okay.
for your life.
So she sent me a necklace, a really beautiful necklace, this gold necklace, and her symbol is like a lightning bolt, the electric
Yeah.
woman. It's fantastic, it's very sexy. And on the back of it was AFH, and F is not the initial of my middle name. And card, and it's Annalie fucking Howling, and she puts, "You remember who the fuck you are, like
Yeah.
you remember who you are." And I wore that necklace. I've still got it. I wore that like religiously for years because it just felt like it gave me. It did remind me of who the F I was, and was
Yeah.
helping me again take off some other layers this time from a marriage, being someone's wife, stepping out of that container into a lot of different different roles, things changing. And again, it was sort of helping me back to my core essence, to my
Yeah.
soul. So she is someone that I would say I would always really value, and has this just incredible ability to help you reconnect back to yourself. And it's been those moments that I reflect back on, and I think, well, you did that. So when there's something scary or the inner critic's kicking in,
Yeah.
well, you did that. You did that.
Yeah, and you know what? The like already just the layers in the way in which you're able to just tell that story within 3 minutes, able to cut to those moments of stuckness, as it were. And a lot of the time, awareness is key, right? Do we even see, understand, pay attention to the kind of the feeling, data, and information that's saying this isn't right for us right now? And I'm wondering if you can give us a sense of kind of what led you to that kind of first stuck point. Because as you said, from an outside in perspective, ticking all the boxes.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
from an inside out perspective, it was, you're kind of trapped and screaming to kind of unleash yourself. If you were, with the benefit of hindsight, able to kind of go back to that person that thought that they were, AFH. I'm living the dream life. I'm achieving all the things that I'm supposed to be doing, but really, I'm not. How would you help that person in that moment go, oh, shit, I'm missing the point here completely?
I think so. For me, there's like some nuance probably to add on, which was that I understand now through the benefit of hindsight, healing, doing the work, everything else, that I was acting from a lot of wounded experiences of my past. So I grew up in a very violent household. My father was very violent with me, and so home was not a safe place. And so therefore I entered the race, if you like, which is what it is, very, very quickly, because I had to find safety. So for
Yeah,
me, creating financial security, having a career, the ladder that we're
yeah,
told, you and I are literally the same age, I think, so you're told to kind of aspire to certain things, but also security in bricks and mortar. And it was that age, that you grow up in, and that's what gives you security. And so I entered that from a place of fight or flight, very much that I had to make this work.
yeah,
And then I found an industry and a job and a place that I could make this work.
yeah,
So, and I was making it work, and I was ignoring the alarm bells that were going off, like I was ill and I didn't
yeah,
know why. And I've used this example before. You start, going, oh, I'll go to the doctor, and maybe it's this, and maybe I'm not. You start doing all these things. I went for intolerance tests. I went for all these various things that are basically tinkering around the edge, just trying to not face up to the main screaming, glaring reality that
yeah.
the biggest thing in my life at that time, my job, my career, I was intolerant to that. I wasn't
Yes.
intolerant to gluten. I was intolerant. Like, honestly, I was intolerant to that, and truly, the second I stopped doing it, I
Yeah,
was fine. Everything healed. I was fine. But I didn't want to face up to that because, like I said at the beginning, looping back, it wasn't like I had a box next to me with the perfect answer of what to do next.
yeah,
You just get to this place where you're like, cannot. I cannot do this anymore. It's making me sick.
yeah,
But you don't necessarily have the prepackaged answer of, well, this is what's going to really fulfill me and make me feel incredible. And then layer on top of that, and you can still be successful, as in because I'm still, need to make security for myself. So
yeah,
that is a really, really scary place, and you
yeah,
need to have good friends, good resources, really understand what's going on in yourself, like the grounding practices, all that kind of stuff, to be able to kind of self soothe in that moment and go, you're okay and you've got this.
yeah. God, I love, like, I feel lighter as you're going through that explanation. Like, and the reason why I feel lighter is just the acknowledgement of the control that you have taken back in that
Mm,
moment. So, there's a part of this experience which is feeling completely out of control. The safety, as you talk about it, is the job because of what it provided. But actually, all it's led is to a whole bunch of costs that create a kind of a free fall experience of total lack of control. And then you've gone, well, actually, there's this whole bunch of stuff that I just wasn't seeing, wasn't paying attention to, and I did the work. And I think that's something that people forget.
mm.
It like I saw on a TED talk. It's got like 30 million views. Find your purpose in 3 minutes.
Oh wow.
And I'm like, what's wonderful is that there are lots of people out there who are really interested in finding their purpose. That's the good message. The shocking bit of that is nobody's finding their purpose in 3 minutes. They're not finding a purpose that can help transform their lives in the way that you're describing. It's just some kind of superficial level of insight. So the fact that you've done the work, that's the
Mm.
bit that feels really compelling here. But the outcome of being able to do the work is that control, that feeling of lightness.
You make such an interesting point, and I think there's like actually even more, I'm not going to say like darkness about that video, but as you say, the hope that people want to find something to help themselves, amazing. My concern, and in the work that I do, the kind of clients I work with, yourself as well in this space, we have a responsibility to tell the truth, right? And I could say, hey, heal, or I've written this, or read my post, or watch this 30-second reel, and it will
Yeah,
sort you out. Well, it
yeah,
won't. It might resonate with something, and it could start something off. And I put like book recommendations and podcasts out again, just to illuminate the first step on your path. But
yeah,
my worry with things like that, the quick fix stuff. So I started my Instagram page on, I think in the UK we had 2 lockdowns. It was kind of the second lockdown that we had. And I started it because I'd seen so many people advertising things like, "I'll cure your anxiety for $99," or "watch
yeah,
3 videos and you'll be free of like anxiety, or, however you're feeling, you'll be lifted." And that's irresponsible because it's not true. And then the worst part of that is like I haven't seen the 3 minutes finding your purpose. It might be amazing. I haven't seen it, so I can't judge. But the worst thing about these sort of quick fix promises is if you can't do it, what does that say about me?
yeah,
So, oh, I didn't cure my anxiety in 3 videos for $99. I didn't find my lifelong purpose in a 3 minute TED talk when it's had so many views.
yeah,
What is wrong with me? And I just think that that is like, that's shame. You're
yeah.
just loading on to people who are already vulnerable in that
Yes.
phase. And I find that a bit ick, and
Yeah.
it's a bit irresponsible. So, as I say, I haven't seen that video, but I've seen plenty of sort of offers in the well-being or the mental health space or trauma work that are incongruent and will simply never deliver the impact it's saying. Absolutely, it can nudge the needle, it can give you some information, it can help you along. But that was the reason that I started my Instagram page, because I just thought, right, I'm just going to put stuff out that I know works for free
Yeah.
for my
Yeah.
clients. Like, they've only just been able to start booking sessions with me in the last 4 months, I think, or buy a guide or something. I haven't had anything that you can buy or interact with until now for years.
Yeah.
And because I just couldn't be with it. And I wanted people to be able to, the figures of people taking their own lives during lockdown and things like that were just astronomical. And I felt that these promises and quick fixes, and then you fail at that as well, just that underlying limiting belief, that sense of failure, that sense of shame could be so compounding that I wanted to do something else.
So, so I think what this leads us to 2 points. Firstly, ladies and gentlemen, don't come and try and work with Annalie or I unless you are going to do the work. That's fundamental truth. There are other people out there if you want the quick fix.
Not us.
We're not the destination for you guys, and we are totally on the same page as far as that's concerned. Second thing for me here is you can hear the journey that you've been on to create a level of integrity around the type of work that you're now doing. And for me, this kind of plays itself straight back to that: where and how do I find meaning?
Mm,
Because there's something here, the kind of the classic is nothing has meaning unless we imbue it
mm,
with some sense of significance or importance. And the way that you've just talked so impassionedly about people just being compromised in that way, talk to me about how the experiences that you've had, those moments that have shaped who you are, have then started to kind of turn the needle on where and how you find meaning.
Sure. So I think again, I'm very privileged, and I need to announce that. Like, you and I are friends. I've got people like Nikki in my life. I work in coaching and therapy. I have a coach and a therapist. I've got friends in that modality, in that area. If I need something, I can ask and I will
Yeah,
receive. So that is privilege. If I
yeah,
really needed someone to do me a quick session, or James, I'm all over the place, can we have a call? You would do it, and I would do
yeah,
it for you, and we have done. And I'm privileged to have that. And I also am expensive, and I can own that. You have a session with me, it's an expensive experience. And that is privilege. So either somebody has to be employed in a certain company where they pay for me to come in, if it's like executive or corporate, or they earn enough that they can come and have a session with me. Now, I also do pro bono. I never ever charge a veteran of the armed forces. That's where I choose to do all my free work, just to say. So that's my clientele that I always give my time for free. But the sort of meaning and purpose, and again, linking to Instagram and other things I'm trying to do, is to remove the privilege from
yeah,
quality help. So it's not right that it's not right that you've got people who are in caring professions. I know your wife is a nurse. It's not right that you've got people that are burnt out through projects and passions that they love and they're really caring about, and they're not getting the sort of quality of support. And I mentioned this story on interviews before, but when I went to do my EMDR training, which is a very specific technique for trauma, so it's eye movement desensitization reprocessing, and I was in the training center, and I'd had EMDR with my therapist. I always try before I buy. I'm
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
with my integrity, I won't do anything or suggest it if I know it doesn't work or I'm not completely in. So I'd been for a few sessions. I've had an amazing life changing experience with it. I've like drunk the Kool-Aid. I've found the course. I've got onto it. Can pay for it. Everything else, make the time to go and attend it. And in that course room, it was in the UK. It was, I think there were three or four of us, about out of about 40, that were not NHS, which is the National Health Service, and where people are employed. And the instructors asked who'd had EMDR. So I've got my hand up, looking around, like waiting for everyone else, being like, "Yeah, we love it." Two of us maybe had EMDR, because
Okay.
understandably the budget wasn't there to pay for the individuals to have the therapy for themselves and undertake the training course.
Yeah,
And I was just like, but how do you know what good looks like? And there was this amazing woman in there who works in Dover and literally intercepts like the poor refugees and asylum seekers coming off the boats who unimaginable trauma.
yeah,
That is her job,
yeah,
day in, day out. And she hadn't and would not be given that therapy to help herself understand it, heal, cope with her job. It was just go on the training course and then add that into your sort of repertoire. Thank goodness that is something that the NHS is beginning to offer more and more. But the lack, again, that's where privilege to me is, it's missing and it's wrong. So that underpins a big part of my purpose, is to find ways. And I'm talked to a lot of technology businesses all the time, just trying to find something that could be congruent, really works, and can genuinely help people whilst removing the privilege.
And there's something really, again, piquing my curiosity here, Annalie. And if you think about the kind of the journey that you've been on to arrive at this place where actually being able to break down those barriers is fueling your sense of kind of emotional conviction. There's something here for me about you, though, personally, regardless of the impact that you're trying to create for others. Where does your sense of self-worth come from now when you think about working from the inside out? The impact that you create for the people that are around you, is evidential in what you're describing, but I'm really interested in where you find it for you. How do you know you're enough? And in those moments where you're not feeling it, how do you regain, re-anchor, come back to center, and as you describe it?
Sure. So obviously it's been a journey. I think one of the things that was really, when you do work, so EMDR focuses on shame and trauma, when you have traumatic experiences, you're left with a lot of shame. So I was beaten a lot as a child, and that comes with a side helping of all the things that you've done wrong and why you've made this happen. So you're bad, you're this, you're wrong, you're stupid, whatever. So that all goes into your system and you absorb that like a sponge. And then Freud and Jung would have had a field day with me, but I then went into the construction industry, into a toxic masculine environment where it was quite, I didn't enjoy conflict with men. So
Yeah.
I'm this is way before me too. I'm young, I'm in a very heavily male dominated industry where just by nature it is quite, like it can be banter, but it can be quite intimidating a lot of the
Yeah.
time. I'm a very young female, and I was put into a role not where my MBA in economics was being flexed, but where it would be more preferential if I turned up to a client doing a short skirt. So, I was in sales. So all of these things underpinned my lack of worth. So
Yeah.
my sense of self-worth was probably through the floor, very much very fragile. I'm very, very sensitive. I'm a very sensitive person, quite fragile, quite so what I did was I put on armor, put on layers and layers of armor to just keep my little fragile soul safe, because it
Yeah.
was so delicate and we're kind of hanging on by a thread here. So I just armored up and I wouldn't show any emotions. That included in a lot of my friendships, personal relationships, being the cool girl, like nothing kind of fazed me. One of the lads at work, just
Yeah.
never showed any emotion. I never cried, any of those things, just kind of kept this brave face, call it what you will. And then the biggest journey of all of this for me has been truly unpicking that and being able to be vulnerable. And a lot of people talk about vulnerability and it's kind of, it's been a bit of a buzzy word, and people say that, but I cannot begin to express how hard that has been for me. And it's a continual thing for me to be genuinely comfortable talking about how I feel, my needs, communicating that, like maybe in relationship, those sorts of things, taking up space. That's a very, very difficult, finding safety. So in answer to your question about how do I do that now, how do I cultivate it now, I've got a huge amount of self compassion. I understand that those things that happened to me were not my fault. I didn't
Yeah.
deserve it. I
Yeah.
never deserved it. And I understand that I had that journey. And I think I'm now in a position where I'm able to help others because of that. So I'm not calling it a gift, but I
Yeah.
think it's, I can use it to help other people, which is part of my purpose. But if I am feeling really flat, there's a couple of things that I would do. I am the sum of many, many parts. And I know that now. So, which part of me is not being honored? Like, I geek out on the leadership stuff. I need to exercise for
Yeah.
my brain. I love going out with the girls and having too many spicy margaritas. You know, I maybe it's that I need to walk in nature. Maybe it's that I need to play with my kid. Maybe it's that I need to just do none of those things and sort of disconnect from the world. But I have I have a lot of needs actually in different areas. Like if you have different buckets for
Yeah.
parts of you. So one of the things I might do is kind of a bit of an audit of where have I not been showing up for myself and what do I need to do. And that sounds really easy, but as a single mother running your own business, you feel inherently selfish when you go, babe, I'm sorry, but it's not an extra story tonight because mummy just needs to go and sit downstairs and like numb out to, I don't know, whatever, or just have a shower. I'm sorry, we're not doing another round
Yeah.
of Greek myths tonight, like sometimes, so it feels inherently selfish, but I'm not going to use the word better, I've got more comfortable, and I understand that by me popping that in, say for one evening, I'm then set for the rest of the week, and where I haven't been honoring myself.
Yeah.
I'm also much more comfortable with giving myself permission if I want to go off the deep end in some way, whatever that might be, like deeply into a study,
Yeah.
have a fun night out dancing, like whatever that might entail. If that's what I need to do to sort of set my soul free and get a bit more excitement in, I need it. A
Yeah.
very early warning sign for me now is if I have no creativity at all, I know that I'm blinking on the edge. If I just can't come up with anything, I'm down. And
Yeah.
that's like, we need to put an intervention in here quite quickly. And the other thing that I do is give myself complete permission to fuck it off for a day. So, like, there's a saying that I love, which is ask me on a different day.
Yeah.
And there are some times that, do you know what? Today is a day I'm just going to get through. I say this to all my girlfriends as well. sometimes we just need to get through today. We're not going to have big thoughts. We're not going to like judge ourselves. We're not going to have the big internal conversations. We're not going to tell you what. We're going to throw some like beige food at this, and
Yeah.
like we're just going to get through today, and then I'm going to have a good night's sleep. And tomorrow, ask me on a different day. And if I still feel the same way, if there's something that I still really need to address, then that's when I'll sort of take it forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Annalie, there are just two massive words that you've used there that I feel like we need to just kind of touch on for a second. The first one being around vulnerability and
Mm.
the kind of the almost the cognitive experience or the cognitive knowledge that vulnerability looks like courage and sounds like truth, right?
Yeah.
So those things feel wonderful and brave and inspirational, yet to actually achieve them is um, I can't even find the right word in the moment to describe what it actually takes to be able to embrace vulnerability, because it's a Herculean effort. So there's something here, right? But then the other word that was ramming around my head, and you just kind of said it beautifully at the end there, is permission.
Mm.
How have you given yourself permission here? Because I'm listening to you going, wow, like flicked the switch there in terms of all of that, all of those experiences, all of that trauma that has become fuel for you. But there was a point at which you had to give yourself permission to feel all of that
Mm.
and be able to access it in a different way, and give yourself permission on a day-to-day basis to be able to say, hey, I've got loads of needs,
Mm.
loads of different needs here, and I don't know necessarily one moment to the next which need has to be serviced, but I'm willing to give myself the time and space to understand that and then do something about it. So how do you get to the point of giving yourself permission continually, and also how do you access vulnerability?
So I love that question. So the permission piece, I think when you were speaking, I was reflecting on the question. I think that comes from not asking the permission of others anymore.
Yeah,
So
nice.
I think it sounds maybe like a dichotomy or a paradox, but my own permission was just not asking for others. Like, is this okay?
Yeah,
Is this all right for me to try this? Can I do that? So I stopped doing that. I just stopped doing it, and I was like, I'm going to give myself the permission that maybe I'm, checking in if that's okay. So I took that back, if you like. You can call it reclaiming my power, but I just honestly just took it back. I just stopped asking for permission,
yeah,
and that was very empowering. And then the other thing, I can't remember who told me, it was years ago, but I loved it because I've got quite a mischievous streak, you know that, and that gives me energy. So the reason I honor sort of my mischief is it's something that's an inherent value of mine, and it gives me energy. And they said to me, just proceed until you're apprehended. And most, you know how many times I've been apprehended? None. Not one.
yeah,
Not one. Like I've just done stuff without asking, and I'm like, well, if someone's really got a problem with it, or if it's really bad, or whatever, then they'll stop me, or they'll say don't, and I'm never doing anything that's ever going to impact another person negatively. That's just not my way. But I'm like, no, I'm just not even going to ask a lot of the
Well,
time.
you know what the title of this podcast is going to be, right? Proceed until apprehended.
But I think that it's probably a little bit of a girl thing as well. I mean, you're a daddy of a daughter as well, but I really try with Amber, and I try not to tell her she's a good girl. I try not to, like, all the things that you can be told as a woman, being
Yeah,
a good girl, not making a fuss, not making a scene. And that can really inherently go into your system about not asking for needs to be met, seeking permission first. I watched this
yeah,
TED talk that was amazing, and it's a lady who is the daughter of two psychologists, and she was talking about various studies as well, and she was saying that I think parents are more likely, it's like something insane, like 9 times out of 10 to tell a daughter to be careful, but a son you don't. So, if he's off rolling around, and you're like, no, there he is,
yeah,
ha ha. But if it's just, oh, be careful, be careful, be careful, be careful, and and so you go into life, and it's not a bad thing. Your parents are loving you, but that is just maybe how it kind of comes across in society and conditioning. But as a woman, we think that it's that, and so asking permission first. Is it okay for me to do this? Is it safe for me to do this? Will I be okay if I do this? So by
yeah,
me not asking permission, that's me taking my own
yeah,
self-worth, identity, validation, courage, call it what you will, just
yeah.
self-belief forward. And then the proceed until apprehended, I just love that. And it's been a great way of finding out how many rules you can indeed break on a daily basis.
Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. And so this kind of this idea of being able to embrace vulnerability, like
Mm.
what really enabled you to go to that place in the way that you have done.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can't remember exactly how it happened, but I realized at some point that was what was also making me quite ill. That the layering, the armoring, the fight or flight response, the just get through, smile, grin and bear it, grit your teeth, all these things that it just was exhausting, and I had a big burnout, and I think that was part of it. Actually, going to the States was the first big step in that. I went to America to do my coach training after having the sessions with Nikki and deciding I wanted to go down that path. I am
Yeah,
a type A, so if I'm going to do anything, I'm going to do it the best. So I went to San Francisco, to where the home of the coach school is, and I enrolled there. And there was two reasons. I wanted to do it so that it was something that I had the full experience of, and it was, at the time, there wasn't the best offer in the UK, and I wanted to be able to completely immerse myself, different time zone, and just have that experience for me. And on the coach, so I'm very British, not vulnerable, layers of armor, never cry. And I mean, like, years, like solar eclipses go past, like, never show emotion. And I'm there with sort of 20 Americans, California as well.
yeah,
They were just honoring, holding space, all of this. And it was like, and I
yeah,
did a really good job. And honestly, I remember thinking, I can get through this. I can white knuckle this. I
yeah.
can just nod and bite my lip, or stick your nails in your palms, and I'll get through it. And if somebody asks me a really personal question, I'll be fine, and I'll do all the stuff. And they broke me in about, in about, they broke me with their love and honoring in, like, very quickly, actually. Because I mean, again, you would have done this, but you do so many, like, horrifically vulnerable activities at the beginning when you're not used to it. Eye gazing,
Yeah,
crossing lines. You would have done it. You put physical lines, often in tape, coach's favorite tool, on the
yeah,
floor, and you have to name things you're stepping into and leaving behind. And then seeing other people's transformation as well has always been something that, you're seeing these people as well that are going through it with you. And one of the things they don't tell you when you learn to become a coach, you're like, yeah, I'm going to get that qualification, but you're showing up and you're going to pull your soul through the embers as well and come out the other side something new. And they don't tell you that. Like, your personal transformation is kind of an add-on that you get. But wow, did I get it. And it was just such an amazing group to be witnessed by. I spent sort of 3.5, 4 months in total there, and just made so many amazing friends. I'm still such good friends with them now. And I actually think that doing it there and in that way, permission, if we use that word again, I gave myself permission to show up differently. This was like a
yeah,
fresh start. It's a new group. It's kind of a new career. It was safe to do that there. And if you're not going to try it on there, my God, when am I ever going to try this on?
yeah,
And I can remember feedback in one of the earlier sessions. They're like, we just want you to get into a bit of a mess. They're like, you're so perfect. You hold it together so well. Like, you present yourself too shiny, too glossy. And that was the
yeah.
perfectionism and the people pleasing and all the stuff. And like, one of my pieces of homework was to come as like I think they said, like, a messy goddess or something like that. But for me, that was so difficult to be able to kind of, to not do that, to not manage things, to not, keep things together or present a certain exterior. But yeah, I mean, they had my soul out there, and we put it back together in a different way.
You know what, Annalie? One of the kind of the core tenets, and maybe say core tenet, deep held belief that I have around purpose is the leaps of faith that it allows you to take.
Mm,
Because fundamentally, you're trying to tap into something within yourself that doesn't have words, that isn't about rational logic, isn't about information and knowledge and experience. It's about intuition, it's about emotion.
mm,
And when you're able to access that, it enables you to have and create faith and belief in what is possible. And so you go into the unknown, not knowing necessarily what the outcome is going to be. And I think what's really wonderful in the stories that you're sharing here are the moments of leaps of faith where something used to be true and it almost defined your reality. But then there was a point at which you went, I I don't want this to define my reality, and I don't know what the new reality looks like or needs to be, but I'm going into it, and let's see
Mm.
what happens. And whether we call it permission or whatever, there was just a sense of growing awareness to your intuition about what you needed, about where meaningfulness, not just what's important and significant or understanding, but the depth of connection really was arriving from for you and going after it,
Mm.
which is it's inspirational to be able to hear somebody take that on. And I think I almost the inspiration in the message for me is give it a go.
Mm.
Give it a go. That's what I'm hearing is don't stop yourself. Don't put the handbrake on. Let the handbrake go. Look, check me out. I had all the handbrakes. It wasn't just one handbrake. I had about 8 vehicles worth of handbrakes on all at the same time. I just started taking them off and check it out. It's mega.
It's so true, and I think again, there was privilege in that. I was able to take the time. I changed my business. I went to the States. I kind of immersed myself in that. But honestly, it's almost embarrassed saying this. I'm just going to own it. When I first broke up with my husband and left my marriage, I had never put air in my tires, never once, and I needed to do it, and I didn't know exactly how to do it, and I went up the road to my amazing neighbours, and she was like, "Oh my god," because she'd been through a divorce, and come on, you. She was a family trip with her husband, her brother who was over from the States, me, my daughter, went to the local petrol station, and all of them had their own way of doing it, and sort of showed me exactly how to do this on the old car. And it was after that, obviously I know how to do it again, but the thing that I did was I asked for their
Yeah,
help. And that made me feel really vulnerable because what I would have done before was just like go to a garage or get it done on a serve, honestly, because I didn't know how and I found the environment quite intimidating. Or if you went to do it, like people being nice would be a bit like, "You're right there, love." And it
yeah,
was the nicest thing for me to just, I'm totally all right here, but
yeah,
it was the bigger leap was going to ask for help and say and admit, I don't know how to do this. And there are videos on YouTube and it's very, very helpful. YouTube is great. I've hung a couple of amazing pictures. I've done some stuff on the washing machine, but actually, it leads on to this. Every time I've done things that, what I want to just say to people listening is it doesn't have to be these huge, great, big, life changing transformations. It can be
yes,
just start wherever you are. And I went to a really beautiful, there's a very lovely place near me in Richmond, and it's like a lovely sort of wellnessy thing. And I took actually same neighbor who's amazing to this kind of yoga New Year movement, set some intentions event. And she'd been through quite a tough time, and I knew she needed to release. So I'm
yeah,
taking her to something, and we're going to go through this together. But I know that she needed to, bless her, release some stuff. And the teacher went around the room, and she was like, it was like the 10th of January or something, and she was sort of checking in with people, and a few people are speaking up. And this one lady just said, I just know that the people in my life right now are not kind of who I need them to be to help me move forward. I know that I need to make changes, but I don't know what they look like. And she just said, honestly, this is just my first step and I don't know
yeah,
what's going to come from here. And everyone in that room, there were 70 people, were like, oh, and the teacher was brilliant. She's like, right, are there 3 people here? Put your hands up who are willing to change numbers and like we can start becoming part of this new tribe. And that is out there for everybody. I want to say
yeah,
that. Like it doesn't have to be, oh, I need to change my career and go on this massive journey. Like, that was just such a resonant moment for everyone in that room who has felt lost and didn't have the North Star in that moment. And it's
yeah,
just doing that one thing, and then it sets you off on that path.
yeah, yeah. Love that, Annalie. Thank you. I guess I have one final question, really, which is, what's the next leap of faith look like for you? Where does that kind of sense of purpose and meaning? Where is it pulling you towards?
Okay, so I don't know what I can say actually. Because there's a project going on at the minute, and so when this comes out, so there's a huge leap of faith that I've spent the last 2 hours doing before coming onto this call with you, which is pulling me so far out of my comfort zone. I can't begin to tell you. It's a creative project, so it's something that I have long say wistfully wished for, procrastinated about fantastically, and then have now had an opportunity come into me which requires me to really show up and
Yeah,
be really vulnerable and have a lot of people look over my work, if you like, which you don't tend to do since you're a kid. You don't tend to hand things in for people to kind of mark and make comments, and it's honestly, it's really been such a big leap for me to be able to kind of do that. And I can absolutely own, again, I've procrastinated quite a bit about it because I didn't feel perfect enough or ready enough or all the stuff. And I have had to lean on all those moments that I didn't know something and, ask for help. And so this has been, I'm currently very much in the thick of doing something that terrifies me. But I've got to tell you, like, just before, I literally spent the morning today doing it, phone off, working in sprints, learned that from you, doing all the stuff. And I finished what I was doing and I just felt so alive. Like, I felt so alive. And yeah, it's so that's where I am at the moment. So sorry if it's a bit jiggly,
Well,
but you understand
yeah,
what
ladies and gentlemen, Annalie's keeping all of us on the on tenterhooks here about whatever this may be. We just have to kind of keep our eyes open. But I don't even know where to begin in just thanking you for the best part of 40 minutes of just intense openness and inspiration. Really, thank you for just kind of being willing to being in the conversation and sharing with a level of authenticity and integrity about the work and what that can create if we really embrace it. Yeah, been wonderful to have you on the Excitable Soul podcast, Annalie Howling.
Thank you. I've loved it.
Massive thank you for taking the time to listen to the Excitable Soul podcast. If you are interested in uncovering, understanding, and unleashing your sense of purpose, come and explore our purpose immersion programs at theexcitablesoul.com. We look forward to hearing from you there or being with you on our next episode. Have an incredible day.